Hello everybody, this is Refresh and I'm here to bring you a battle between the Innistrad Midnight Hunt Challenger decks and the Defeat a God Challenge deck from Journey into Nyx. We will be playing two games, first on normal difficulty with 3 Rollicking Throngs and then on hard mode. And for these games we have Coven Counters on the left and Undead Unleashed on the right. We will be using standard commander rules, so they'll start with 40 shared life and their commanders in the command zone using their default commanders, Lenora and Wilhelt. And for these games we're going to be using 3 hero cards. The first is the Harvester, which says tap, draw a card, then discard a card. Then the Explorer, which says you may play an additional land on each of your turns. And the Vanquisher, which says your starting hand size is increased by 1 and your maximum hand size is increased by 1. Because I only have 1 copy of each of these cards, I'm going to apply them to both decks simultaneously. And then we will get started by drawing our opening hands. Coven Counters draws a Bastion Protector, a Rogue's Passage, Celestial Judgment, Forest, Plains, Heron Blade Elite, Forest, and Unbreakable Formation. It's a little slow, but I guess the 3-drops are okay to hold on to, so we'll keep it. Undead Unleashed draws a Midnight Reaper, Liliana Death's Majesty, Sunken Hollow, Liliana's Devotee, Drown in Dreams, Feed the Swarm, Cemetery Reaper, and Spark Reaper. We do not have more than 1 land, and so this is an instant mulligan. Now we have an island, a Crowded Crypt, a Drown in Dreams, Undead Alchemist, Swamp, Hour of Eternity, and Island. Now we have the lands, but really no action at all. I think that we're waiting to turn 2 to play the Undead Alchemist isn't going to do a whole lot, but I guess we'll just have to hold it and see if we can get there. Because this is multiplayer, it was a free mulligan, so we'll go ahead and get started by drawing for our opening hands because it's multiplayer. Counters draws a Forest, Undead draws a Havengul Runebinder. Go ahead and get started by playing a Forest and a Plains over here, and an Island and a Swamp over here. Can't do anything else, so we'll pass the turn to Xenagos. Xenagos will cast the top 2 cards. First we have an Impulsive Charge. At the beginning of combat this turn, all Revelers gain haste until end of turn and attack this combat at Fable. Then we have an Ecstatic Piper. It's a 2/2 Satyr Reveler. When it enters battlefield, Xenagos Descended attacks this turn if able, and when it leaves the battlefield, each player gains 2 life. So everything's attacking. We're taking 11 damage, going down to 29. At the end of the turn, we'll use the Harvester. Counters draws a Forest, and we will discard the Rogue's Passage. Undead draws an Endless Ranks of the Dead, and we will discard the Hour of Eternity. Counters draws a Plains. Undead draws an Island. Play a Plains and a Forest over here. We'll tap 3 and cast the Heron Blade Elite. This is a 1/1 human warrior with vigilance. Whenever another human enters the battlefield under your control, put a +1/+1 counter on it. Tap to add X mana of any one color where X is its power. Undead will play 2 more islands. We'll tap 4 and play the Undead Alchemist. This is a 4/2 zombie. If a zombie you control would deal combat damage to a player, instead that player mills through that many cards. Whenever a creature is put into your opponent's graveyard from their library, exile that card and create a 2/2 black zombie creature token. I don't know that we should be able to count at hitting the Revelers as attacking the player, so I'm not sure that it's anything more than a 4/2, but that's still helpful here. Then we'll pass to Xenagos. Xenagos casts another Impulsive Charge, and then Rip to Pieces. At the beginning of combat this turn, each Reveler deals 1 damage to each player and each creature that they control. So we're going to combat, and we'll take 4 damage to each creature, killing them both. And then 4 damage to each player, that's 8 damage, and then everything's turning sideways. So we're taking 13 more damage, taking us down to 16. At the end of the turn, we'll use the Harvester. Counters draws a Forest, and we'll discard the Forest. Undead draws an Army of the Damned, and we will discard the Army of the Damned. Counters draws a Moorland Rescuer. Undead draws a Swamp. We'll play a Swamp and an Island over here. And we'll play 2 Forests over here. Counters will tap 5 and cast their commander, which is Lenore Autumn Sovereign. It's a 0/4 legendary human noble, and at the beginning of combat on your turn, put +1/+1 counter on up to one target creature you control. Then if they control 3 or more creatures with differing powers, draw a card. We'll tap 5 over here as well. Cast our commander. Will Held the Rod Cleaver. It's a 3/3 legendary zombie warrior. Whenever another zombie you control dies, if it didn't have Decayed, create a 2/2 black zombie creature token with Decayed. And at the beginning of your end step, you may sacrifice a zombie if you do draw a card. And then we'll pass to Xenagos. Xenagos plays an Ecstatic Piper. And then a Madden Orianne. That's a 4/2 enchantment Nymph Reveler. As long as there are 5 more Revelers on the battlefield, it attacks each turn if able. We also should have put a counter on Lenore last turn. And then we'll be attacked by Xenagos and by the Madden Orianne. We'll take 6 from Xenagos and bounce the Madden Oriad off of Lenore, taking us down to 10. At the end of the turn, we'll use the Harvester. Counters draws a Victory's Envoy, and we will discard the Celestial Judgment. Undead draws a Liliana's Mastery, and we'll discard the Drowning Dreams. Counters draws a Stalwart Pathfinder, and Undead draws a Swamp. We'll play the Swamp over here. I'm going to get some board presence here, so we're going to tap out and cast a Bastion Protector. This is a 3/3 human soldier, and it says commander creatures you control get +2/+2 and have indestructible. We'll also cast the Stalwart Pathfinder. This is a 3/1 human soldier with vigilance. At the beginning of combat on your turn, if you control 3 or more creatures with different powers, creatures you control gain indestructible until end of turn. Then we'll tap 3 to play a Crowded Crypt. This is an artifact. You can tap it for black, and whenever a creature you control dies, put a corpse counter on Crowded Crypt, and for 4 black, tap and sacrifice it to create a 2/2 black zombie creature token with Decayed for each corpse counter on it. I'm going to tap 5 and play Liliana's Mastery. It's an enchantment. Zombies you control get +1/+1, and when it enters the battlefield, create 2/2 black zombie creature tokens. Now we'll go to combat, and this will trigger Lenore. Lenore will put a counter on the Pathfinder. We still have 3 different powers because of the power boost that the Bastion Protector extends to Lenore, but we will attack with Lenore into the Madden Orianne, and we will attack Will Held into one of the Ecstatic Pipers, defeating them. We'll gain 10 life, taking us all the way up to 20. Then we'll pass the turn. Xenagos cast an Ecstatic Piper, and then an Impulse to Destruction. Each player may sacrifice an artifact or enchantment. It deals 3 damage to each player who didn't sacrifice a permanent this way. We don't have anything to sacrifice except the Mastery, and I think it's worth keeping that, and so we're going to take 6, and then Xenagos will attack. We're going to chop with one of the zombies, which will just come back as a Decayed zombie, and we will go down to 14. At the end of the turn, we'll use the Harvester. Counters draws a Celebrate the Harvest, and we will discard the Celebrate the Harvest. Undead draws a Tomb Tyrant, and we will discard the Havengull Runebinder. Counters draws a Kubris Harvest Celebrant. Undead draws a Lord of the Cursed. We'll tap 6 over here and cast the Moorland Rescuer. This is a 4/4 human knight, and when it dies, return any number of other creature cards with total power X or less from your graveyard to the battlefield, while X is Moorland Rescuer's power, and then exile it. Over here we'll tap out as well. And we'll cast a Lord of the Curse. This is a 2/3 zombie. Other zombies you control get +1/+1. For 1 in black, tap. All zombies gain menace until end of turn. We'll also play a Tomb Tyrant. This is a 3/3 zombie noble. Other zombies you control get +1/+1. You can pay 2 black, tap, and sack to return a zombie creature card at random from your graveyard to the battlefield. Activate only during your turn and only if there are at least 3 zombie creatures in the graveyard. So now all the zombies that are pumped +3/+3 except for Lord of the Curse and Tomb Tyrant, which are all pumped to +2/+2. So now we'll go to combat. I think we can just wipe out the board. First we're going to put a counter on the Moorland Rescuer. This will trigger Coven, so we'll draw a card off of Lenore, which is Audrak, Master Tactician. And then we'll go to combat and we will attack 1 zombie into the Ecstatic Piper, Will Health into another Ecstatic Piper, Stalwart Pathlighter into a Rollicking Throng, the Bastion Protector into a Rollicking Throng, and Lenore into a Rollicking Throng. This will defeat everything. We will gain 8 life to go back up to 22, and then as we go to the end step, we will sacrifice the zombie to draw a card, which is a swamp. Xenagos plays an Impulsive Charge, then an Impulsive Destruction. Again, we don't want to really sack anything, so we'll take 6 and go down to 16. At the end of the turn, we'll use the Harvester. Counters draws a Cleansing Nova, and we will discard the Unbreakable Formation. Undead draws a Swamp, we'll discard the Swamp. Put a counter on the Crypt because one zombie died. Counters draws a Blighted Woodland. Undead draws a Ravenous Rotbelly. I think we kind of just have this though. We'll spend 5 mana and cast Victory's Envoy. This is a 3/3 human cleric. At the beginning of your upkeep, put a +1/+1 counter on each other creature you control. Go ahead and put a counter on the Rescuer, making it a 6/6, and this will trigger the Stalwart Pathlighter and Lenore. We'll draw the card off of Lenore, which is a Plains, and we will attack with the indestructible 6/6 into Xenagos, defeating him. And as soon as Xenagos then leaves the battlefield, each player wins a game. And so we defeat Xenagos on normal difficulty with some drama at first, but we managed to stabilize. We'll be right back for hard mode. Alright, here we are. This is hard mode. We have 4 Rollicking Throngs assembled, and we'll get started by drawing our hands. Counters draws an Enoch Bondkin, a Talisman of Unity, a Moorland Rescuer, a Heron Blade Elite, a Canopy Vista, Temple of the False God, Growth Spasm, and Plains. I think this is an acceptable first hand. Undead draws a Shadowkin, Dimir Aqueduct, Island, Go for the Throat, Dreadhorde Invasion, Bajuka Bog, Diagraph Captain, and Aether Spouts. It's not an ideal hand, but I guess we can keep this as well. We'll start by drawing our first card. Counters draws a Command Tower, and Undead draws a Mortuary Mire. We'll get started by playing a Bajuka Bog here. Its land enters the battlefield tapped, and when it enters the battlefield, exile all cards from target player's graveyard. We tap for black. We'll exile Xenagos' graveyard, but it doesn't matter, we're really just playing it so that we can play the Dimir Aqueduct. Its land enters the battlefield tapped, and when it enters the battlefield, return a land you control to its owner's hand. Tap for blue or black. Over here, we'll play a Command Tower. Its land, and you can tap it for 1 mana of any color in your commander's color identity. We'll also play a Plains. We'll tap these, and we will cast the Talisman of Unity. It's an artifact you can tap for colorless, or you can tap for green or white, and it deals 1 damage to us. And then we will pass to Xenagos. Xenagos casts an Ecstatic Piper and a Wild Maenads. That's a 3/1 Human Reveler with first strike, and when it leaves the battlefield, each player gains 3 life. Xenagos will attack. We have no blockers, so we're going to take 6 and go down to 34. We also need to discard the hand size over here, so it'll be Aether Spouts that we discarded. Then we'll use the Harvester. Counters draws a Plains, and we will discard the Growth Spasm. Undead draws a Swamp, and we will discard the Mortuary Mire. Counters draws a Celestial Judgment. Undead draws an Island. Here we'll play a Swamp and an Island. Here we'll play a Plains and the Canopy Vista. It's a Forest Plains, and it enters the battlefield tapped unless you control 2 or more lands. We do. Undead will tap out. We'll play a Dreadhorde Invasion. This is an enchantment. At the beginning of your upkeep, you lose 1 life and amass 1, and whenever a zombie token you control with power 6 or greater attacks, it gains lifelink until end of turn. We'll also cast Go for the Throat, shooting down the Wild Maenads. We'll gain 6 life to go up to 40. Go for the Throat is an instant. It says destroy target non-artifact creature. Then over here, we'll tap 5. Cast the Heron Blade Elite, and the Enoch Bondkin is a 2/1 Dog Soldier with Outlast 1 white, and each creature you control with a +1/+1 counter on it has first strike. They'll pass the turn. Xenagos casts a Serpent Dancer. This is a 2/4 human reveler with Death Touch, and when it leaves the battlefield, each player draws a card. And then we'll cast a Pharaoh's Band Reveler. This is a 4/4 Centaur Reveler, and when it leaves the battlefield, each player draws a card. Nobody's attacking because no attacks have been triggered. We use Harvester at the end of the turn. Counters draws a Sigarda Heron's Grace, and we'll discard the Celestial Judgment. Undead draws a Tainted Isle, and we will discard the Bajuka Bog. Got a Zombie Army. Counters draws a Somberwald Sage, and Undead draws an Island. We'll lose a life to go down to 39 from the Dreadhorde invasion. Play 2 islands over here. We'll maximize mana usage on this side and tap 5 to cast Wilhelt. Play a Temple of the False God over here. It's a land, you can tap it for 2 colors, activate only if you control 5 or more lands, which we do. I think we spend 5 over here and cast our commander. This will trigger the Heron Blade Elite, putting another counter on it. So we will go to combat and trigger Lenore. We'll put the extra counter on the Einok Bondkin, making it a 3/1. And we will go to combat. Bondkin will swing at the Ecstatic Piper, and that's the only real attack that I feel comfortable making here. So we will also draw off of Lenore. That is a Stalwart Pathlighter here. We'll defeat the Piper. We'll gain 4 life and go up to 43. And then we'll go to the second main, and on the second main phase, we'll spend 3 more mana to cast the Somberwald Sage. This is a 0/1 human druid, and you have to add 3 mana of any one color. You can spend it only to cast creature spells. We'll pass to Xenagos. Xenagos will cast Dance of Flame. It's an enchantment. As long as 5 or more revelers are on the battlefield, all revelers have haste and attack each turn if able. And then we get another Ecstatic Piper. So everything's coming in. Now, we'll block the Piper with Wilhelt. We'll block one of the Rollicking Throngs with Zombie Army. Another Rollicking Throng with Lenore. And we'll take 15 damage to go down to 28. Pipers die. We'll gain 4 life to go back up to 32. At the end of the turn, we'll use the Harvester. Counters draws a Kubris Harvest Celebrant, and we will discard the Moorland Rescuer. Undead draws a Swamp, and we will discard the Swamp. We'll go down to 31 in a mass. Counters draws a Myriad Landscape, and Undead draws a Command Tower. Counters will play the Myriad Landscape. It's a land. It enters the battlefield tapped. You can tap it for colorless or pay 2, tap, and sacrifice it to search your library for up to 2 basic land cards that share a land type. Put them onto the battlefield tapped and then shuffle. We'll also play another Command Tower for Undead, as well as a Tainted Isle. This is a land, you can tap it for colorless, or you can tap it for blue or black. Activate only if you control a swamp. We do. We'll tap 3. Cast the Diregraph Captain. This is a 2/2 zombie soldier with Death Touch, and other zombies you control get +1/+1, and whenever another zombie you control dies, target opponent loses 1 life. This will make the zombie army a 3/3. We'll spend 3 white mana to cast the Stalwart Pathlighter, and then we'll spend 5 more mana to cast Sigarda Heron's Grace. This is a 4/5 legendary angel with flying. You and humans you control have hex proof, and you can spend 2 to exile a card from your graveyard to create a 1/1 white human soldier creature token. The Heron Blade Elite will have gained a counter. We're going to put a counter on Lenore. This will trigger the draw effect, and we'll draw a Curse of the Clinging Webs. And then we will go to combat. We will trigger the Indestructible clause on the Stalwart Pathfighter, and all of these have first strike as well. And we will swing Lenore and the Bondkin at the Serpent Dancers. We'll swing the Zombie Army at a Rollicking Throng. Wilhelt at a Rollicking Throng. That should clear them. We'll each draw a card. Counters draws a Nicaeus the Lunarch, and Undead draws a Cemetery Reaper. Go ahead and spend 3 to cast the Cemetery Reaper. This is a 2/2 zombie. Other zombie creatures you control get +1/+1. And for 2 black, tap, exile target creature card from a graveyard, create a 2/2 black zombie creature token. We'll pass to Xenagos. Xenagos casts a Rollicking Throng. It's a 1/3 human reveler. When it enters the battlefield, reveal the top card of its Xenagos' library. Xenagos casts that card. We are getting an Impulsive Charge and an Ecstatic Piper, so everything swings. We'll block the Ferrisbrand Revelers with Sigarda, one of the Rollicking Throngs with the Heron Blade Elite. The Diagraph and the Reaper are pumping each other up, so we'll block the Ecstatic Piper and another Rollicking Throng with them. We'll let 8 points of damage through to go down to 23. And we'll gain 4 life and draw a card each. Going back up to 27. Counters draws a Death's Presence. Undead draws a Siphon Flesh. At the end of the turn, we'll use the Harvester. Counters draws a Forest, and we will discard Curse of the Clinging Webs. Undead draws a Spark Reaper, and we will discard the Shadowkin. Army will gain a counter, and we will lose a life to go to 26. Counters draws a Return to Dust, and Undead draws a Swamp. We'll play the Swamp over here, play the Forest over here, and I think we have the win in hand. All we have to do is defeat the Rollicking Throng, so we will tap the Zombie Army and attack the Rollicking Throng. That defeats the Rollicking Throng. Then we'll spend 4 mana over here to cast Return to Dust. It's an instant. It says exile target artifact or enchantment. If you cast this spell during your main phase, you may exile up to 1 other target artifact or enchantment. So we'll exile that enchantment over there, as well as Xenagos, who is an enchantment. And we defeat a god. That wasn't too bad, even on hard mode. Let me know what you think about the games in the comments below. If you enjoyed this video, hit the like button. If you'd like to see more of my videos, you can hit subscribe. This is Refresh. Thanks for watching, and I will see you next time.